Thank you for attending today's webinar on best practices of successful financial controllers. This webinar is part 2 of a series. So we'll talk a little bit about part 1 and do the recap of that as well. So a few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and it will be available on the CR Group webpage. The URL is listed here on the presentation. If you do have any questions, just submit them in the question panel on the GoToWebinar page. And if you did miss part 1 of this webinar, it is actually available on demand on our webinar page, so you can go to that same URL and find part 1. So the agenda for today is I'm going to talk a little bit about CR Group. I will give a quick recap of part 1 of the best practices of successful financial controllers. Then we'll talk about part 2 for best practices, new best practices that we're going to be discussing. We'll have an adaptive insights overview, and then we'll leave time for questions and answers at the end. So a little bit about Corporate Renaissance Group. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Donna Paoletti, and I have been with the company since the year 2000, so I'm in my 17th year. The company itself has been around for almost 30 years. It is a privately owned company. It's based in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and we do have global offices in the US, India, South Africa, and Hong Kong. You know, the real point of this slide really is to say that we have been around in business for many, many years. We have thousands of customers worldwide, and our success really stems from the team of people that we have assembled over the years. You know, we've got a combination of business and technology backgrounds, and we have highly skilled business solution consultants and solution experts, and we really have a goal to build long-term relationships with our client base by investing in training and having the best people available. You know, and part of that as well is the, you know, the reach that we have through our active partner network. So many of our clients come through that channel as well. So to talk a little bit about part 1 of the webinar, just as a recap to refresh your memory, you know, we're talking about best practices of successful financial controllers. So, you know, in order to, you know, put this into perspective, I'd like to just take a moment to talk about the current situation that financial controllers are facing, because it'll give a perspective. So, you know, we all know that the role of financial controllers is changing. You know, they're moving beyond number crunching, and they're taking on the job of almost like a financial operating officer. So they're becoming like CFOs, and they're becoming go-tos, you know, go-to sources for information in the organization. And the controller really helps ensure that the finance function runs smoothly in the organization, that there are no surprises at month end or quarter end or year end. You know, so in order to do this, the controllers are always searching for ways to improve productivity, reduce costs, and streamline processes. And this can, you know, range anywhere from the quote to cash processes, the purchases to payable processes, month-end closings, consolidations, management reporting, financial reporting, the whole gamut. So, you know, the controller is responsible for many, if not all, of these items, and these responsibilities and the increasing demands beyond just the number crunching are coming at a cost. So we do have to search for ways to improve the productivity and reduce these costs and streamline the processes. And the challenge is that many controllers out there have yet to embrace, you know, financial analysis software that exists in the marketplace, and this software is really designed to help them, you know, free up and automate some of the transactional type tasks so that there's more time for these folks to spend on strategic business partners. And what we found is that the best in class controllers, you know, embrace this financial analysis software, and they want to really move towards being more strategic in their organization. And the old disparate financial systems just can't provide these finance leaders with the real-time information that they need to adapt quickly as things change. You know, and the goal really is to allow for timely and accurate reporting, and to tell a story to the, you know, the other leaders in the organization. So the, you know, best in class controllers are really trying to help streamline this process and make it faster. And how do they do this? Well, you know, we talked in part one about 3 best practices that these best-in-class controllers follow. So the first one is by cutting risks by reducing the reliance on spreadsheets from the close process. So, you know, we all know that spreadsheets can be prone to errors, so if we can minimize errors due to manual entry, and if we can create a standardization and a repeatable process, we'll reduce risk. So, and you know, along with that, any automation that we can add in will actually save time, and it will allow and free up more time for strategic analysis. So, you know, the goal really is to build workflows and automation, use automation in reconciliations and allocations and, you know, intercompany eliminations and month-end closes and all these tasks that controllers are assigned with. And if we can streamline that and we can reduce the reliance on spreadsheets, you know, that's a very good starting point for many best-in-class controllers. The second point is to talk about using automation to close faster. And here we're actually talking about closing the books. And, you know, many of us know if we're accountants that, you know, the month-end process can be very time-consuming, and the next month comes along and it's the same old thing. So, you know, think of an example that if you could actually automate your process flows to make your financial processes, such as the financial period close, more automated, or you know, we can even talk about budgeting and those sorts of things. If we can make it you know, more of a team environment, and we could use something to control the flows and processes and streamline this by defining deliverables and assigning them to people and monitoring their status and you know, tracking their progress and their closure, you know, we could very quickly at a glance, you know, use dashboards and visual analytics to see where things are at and have an up-to-the-minute progress or process status and task completions. I mean, that would be very, very valuable. So many best-in-class controllers are, you know, embracing automation, particularly in the close process, so that they can close faster, they can streamline consolidations, and they have as they move towards real-time reporting. And then the last best practice that we talked about was leading with data and analysis. And what we really mean by here is that we're going beyond, you know, simply closing the books. And our goal really is to, you know, increase accountability and involvement and collaboration. So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, controllers are being asked to provide more and more information, and not just financial information, but operational information as well. And they're really not just compiling packages of data and reports. They have to interpret this data, you know, do some analysis and contribute to the decision making through that process. So they are moving beyond, you know, just data, and they're moving into analysis. And if we can have any sort of self-service tools that can help them analyze this data without, you know, the need for a programming degree, that would be a wonderful thing. You know, as more and more reports are, you know, relying on key performance indicators and interactive dashboards, and the consumers of this data are not just the financial folks. So it's moving across the entire organization, and as there's more demand, you know, we're looking at higher costs to the controllers. So the controller is really trying to, with these 3 best practices, they're really trying to focus on spending less time gathering data and more time analyzing it and reporting it and contributing to the strategic analysis of the organization. So those first 3 best practices, you know, are really meant to free up the controller and move towards a more strategic input. So now let's talk about the 3 new best practices that we are bringing to the table in part 2 of this report. So the first one that we want to talk about is pursuing a culture of self-service. So, you know, best-in-class controllers encourage self-service. I mean, they are willingly sharing this information. The goal is to let the data work for you. I mean, we know that the data is there. We know it exists. We know that, you know, controllers are constantly being asked for all sorts of information from both financial and non-financial folks. So if, you know, we put the self-service in the hands of the actual users so that they can pull their reports and take away information, there's less, you know, what I'll say transactional type work required from the controller, which in turn adds more value-added strategic activities, or adds time for that sort of thing. And you know, we found there was a survey, and more than 90% of the controllers we found that are being called upon to provide this operational and business data across the organization. So it's not, you know, it's not an issue that's unique to, you know, some controllers. It really is, the majority of controllers are out there, have an onslaught of requests, and if these controllers embrace and enable the key stakeholders and business users to, you know, run with self-service reporting and dashboards and visual analytics on both financial and non-operational data, it's going to free up some of their time. You know, and I just want to reiterate that this can be done with a certain level of security. I mean, I know there's sensitive data out there, and certain users are only entitled to view certain information. So, you know, there are tools available out there which allow you to take that into consideration. So, you know, regardless of the user and the audience, there's a tool out there to allow them to enable self-service and only have access to the information that they should be entitled to see. The second best practice that I wanted to talk in part two of the, you know, the best in class or successful financial controllers was talking about the ability to ensure a seamless handoff of consolidated financials to, you know, the FP&A division within your organization. So, you know, top controllers really deploy business systems that integrate budgeting, planning, consolidation, reporting, and analytics into a single application, because the single system will make it easier to, you know, to streamline and keep the data all in one place. And you can move from close to planning and analysis much quicker than you could without a single source of information. So the goal, or the, you know, working towards a central repository for financial information and non-financial information and you know, overall performance data, and ensuring that everyone is aligned on the same source of data is one of the major goals of successful financial controllers. And really what they want to do is achieve one version of the truth. You know, we've all gone into those meetings where different people have different numbers, and a lot of time is spent, you know, perhaps wasted on trying to uncover the correct number. Well, here everybody has the same version if there's a central repository, so you can actually spend more time on strategic analysis rather than, you know, trying to determine whether the data is even correct. And then the last best practice that we're going to talk about today is increasing collaboration among a decentralized team. So, you know, we all know that finance departments are more decentralized now, you know, compared to before, and more than ever. You know, finance departments deal with people across, you know, a broad variety of areas, even geographically. But these folks and controllers and accountants still need to collaborate, whether it be around a month-end process or, you know, other processes that the controllers are responsible for. So centralized, hard to access systems often stand in the way, and they're, you know, impediments to collaboration. And along with that, you know, poorly defined schedules and weak commitments to deadlines can hamper the collaboration in a decentralized team. So the best controllers out there are actually managing their distributed teams by carefully balancing the leadership and project management within their organization. And they do this by creating a consistent, you know, close process or schedule that reduces bottlenecks and minimizes surprises. And the goal really is to promote a culture of unity and equity and fairness across the organization. And really, this contributes to achieving the deadlines and defining schedules. So the consistent schedule will allow the team to deliver information more quickly and give transparency and accountability into what's actually required. And so really one of the goals of a successful financial controller, and one of the best practices, is to actually increase collaboration around the close process, and this will facilitate information flow and allow the teams to deliver more quickly. So, how do we get there? Well, there is a tool called Adaptive Insights, and I want to talk about that tool today. So what is it? Well, Adaptive Insights is a market leader in the cloud business analytics and CPM space. And they've been around for many, many years, and they help organizations, mid-sized to enterprise-wide companies, with their planning, reporting, consolidation, and analysis. And they're really helping the financial and operational leaders, and the goal is to, have greater speed and control to execute plans and strategies. And they do this by providing a unified suite, which includes planning, reporting, consolidation, analytics. And it's built in the cloud, from the cloud up, and it's meant to deliver, innovative, powerful, and intuitive solutions for these controllers and for all business users, really. It's not just finance related. And the customer success really comes from and stems from the industry's best service, support, and partnering ecosystem that's out there. I mean, they have a partner base of over 200 partners. They've experienced growth year over year for the last 10 years. They're in many, many countries around the world, and they have #1 market share. So let's just, talk a little bit about who's using Adaptive Insights in Canada. You can see there are a variety of companies. Some of them are large, some of them are enterprise-wide, some of them are smaller. But the real key is that there are all types of companies using this right now. The product is equally attractive to both enterprise brands and mid-market customers because there's a combination of powerful features and it's easy to use. And the product and the core value around improved planning within an organization and the analysis around that as well is equally applicable across any industry. So, the underlying fundamentals of the core software itself are applicable across all industries for small, medium-sized, enterprise-wide organizations. And, why have all these customers embraced and used it? Well, it's fast, it's easy, it's affordable. I mean, over 90% of the users said that their cycle times for planning and budgeting have increased or have been reduced by 90%. The month-end close processes are reduced because there's standardization and processes in place, and there's collaboration. It's easy to use and intuitive. You need a very small or no IT footprint at all. It's meant to be a business user application, so you don't need a programming degree. It's got a very similar look and feel to Excel, and you don't have to spend a lot of time troubleshooting or trying to fix formulas or consolidate different spreadsheets when somebody inserts a column or a row. You're saving a lot of time that way on some of those manual tasks, and you're basically seeing better and faster results. And the last point that I want to make is that it is affordable. There's exceptional value here. Organizations have cited a 650% return on investment as compared to Excel. It's very low risk. Many of our clients take a phased approach where they start small and go bigger to see what the application is capable of. So, you're certainly welcome to do that, and don't bite off more than you can chew. So what does it mean when we're actually talking about Adaptive Insights? Well, it's a suite of products that includes planning at its core. It's got Discovery, which is a data visualization and analytics piece. It's got Consolidation, which really helps to accelerate the consolidated close process by ensuring clear real-time perspective across the entire organization, including subsidiaries and legal entities. And you can create intercompany elimination entries, and you can have your internal and external reporting. And then it's got a built-in adaptive reporting module that lets you bring all of the data together, both financial and non-financial. And you can do this in a variety of reports and and a variety of different outputs, and you can have, you know, different reports for different audiences. So depending on who the stakeholders are across the organization, you can have, you know, highly formatted board reports and report packs, and you can have detailed transactional reports for, you know, operational folks. And it does encourage as well sort of on-the-fly ad hoc reporting for investigation and analysis. You know, this functionality and the ease of use of this functionality really helps to eliminate, you know, time spent creating on reports that may not be used, and by creating a self-service environment and putting the reporting in the hands of the business users, they can go in and create easily these reports that they're looking for. And of course, layered on top of that is the fact that there are integrations available to, you know, ERP systems and other types of things, and to Excel files. So the goal really is to get, you know, all of the data that you need into Adaptive and then report on it from there. And one more thing to note is that Adaptive was actually built and designed in the cloud for the cloud. So it's not an on-premise solution that was, you know, migrated over to the cloud. It was always meant to be in the cloud and to be a software as a service product. And it's the difference really is in terms of the maintenance, and there's no IT footprint required, and how the business users actually interact with the application itself. So it's really very, very nice to use. You know, and we talked about the dashboarding and visualizations that are actually available within Adaptive, but we all know that many organizations or you know, controllers have created beautiful reports that they love and that they've designed, and they spend a lot of time designing, and that the end users and consumers are familiar with. So if controllers want to leverage these existing reports and perhaps extend their report library in Excel, we have the ability to do this through Adaptive Office Connect. So this Office Connect connects to Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and it gives you the complete formatting control and flexibility of each of those tools that you're used to, so that you can create your presentation like reports, and you can dynamically connect them to your Adaptive Insights environment and transform them and have them update automatically within a matter of minutes. So, you know, either way you go, you can open up Excel and you can drag and drop, and it's done. So what we're going to do is go ahead and take a quick look at Adaptive Insights. I know we probably got about 5 minutes or so before we leave time for questions and answers. So let's go ahead and take a look. And because it is a cloud-based solution, you simply access it from any URL here. And you go to the Adaptive Insights login page, and you just log in with the credentials. When you set up an instance, you know, these are available to you probably within a 24-hour period, and you're given access and log in to start modeling. So let's go ahead and log in, and I'll click Submit. Oh, Adaptive, I got a spelling mistake, my apologies. Here we go again. So when you log in, you're going to be brought to your home page. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to show you is we talked about how we can have, you know, provide a self-service environment to allow users to go in and take a look at their data and, you know, find their own data and have less requests from, you know, controllers, and this frees up the controllers for more time for strategic analysis. So how do they do that? Well, they would come into Adaptive and they would actually be given access to reporting. And as I mentioned earlier, right now I'm logged in as an administrator, so I have full access to the complete model, but security is role-based and based on the login IDs. So as I log in and as I go to my various reports and, you know, any reports that are shared with me, and if I click on a variance report as an example, I'm only going to be able to see the information that I have access to. Because I'm logged in as an administrator, I have access to the entire company. But if I was given restrictions to one certain department or cost center, those restrictions would flow through to the reporting, and I would only see the information that's available. So I can, you know, I can take a look and start to drill down and see why my information is where it is and what's driving the underlying values in here. And I can say, oh, look, most of my revenues for this particular month are coming from product A. And if I want to drill back up and say, look, maybe I'm interested in April data instead of March data, I can go ahead and I can change that. So you're putting the, the analysis or the data investigation and the reporting in the hands of the users. The administrators can help set up these reports and set up the securities, and then the users can go in, self-service, on demand, pull the information and find the information that they're looking for. Really, if you have all of the data in one place and you let it work for you and provide that self-service environment, it's going to free up time, and best-in-class controllers embrace that. The second point that I wanted to talk about, or the goal, was to have one version of the truth, and this goes in hand with the self-service stuff. In order to make the model as meaningful as possible, you want to have both, operational data and financial data in a central place to have one version of the truth. And you might have all of that combined, and again, you could have, your users go in and have their home page as a discovery, and this is the data visualization and the analytics, and they might want to go in, and this is entirely customer and user defined. So as they're going in and they're taking a look, there's two dashboards that have been created. Let's go on, and I'm looking at a regs dashboard now, and here are the 3 items that he's identified. If I want to start to drill down and take a look at different information, I can see a monthly trend, and again, I can have the investigation. I'm looking at the information that I want to see. I can have my key for performance indicators on this page that are important to me. This is all defined based on the logins that I have, and I can again put the analysis and the drill downs and the changes into the hands of the users and have the information automatically updated as well. So the more data that you have, both financial and operational, you have in here, it creates one version of the truth and allows for more accurate reporting and analysis. And the last point that I wanted to make was that I wanted to talk about, increased collaboration, and if these controllers are helping to streamline perhaps the month-end close by creating standardized tasks across the organization. It's a decentralized environment. It's difficult to manage. If you can create a consistent close process and schedule that minimizes surprises, you can actually help to, turn around that close process more quickly. So there's a functionality in Adaptive called processes, and it's really a combination of workflows and process flows. So right now I'm looking at a close process for September, and I can see I have a whole bunch of tasks that have to be done. I have to enter my exchange rates, I have to get my actuals in, I have to do my reclassifications and allocations. I can see what's done and what's not done. I can assign these tasks to individuals and see where they're related. I can see that 2 tasks have been completed and 11 are running late, but I can also visually at one point in time see the progress. So, as this task is completed and we edit it and we can, the end user marks it as complete, I will actually see when I log in the next time that this data is refreshed, and now I'm 30% done through the close process. So, the entire organization and all of my departments and cost centers have this standard list of processes. They're assigned to individuals, and then I can go in and monitor and track the progress by the delivery dates by the people for these individuals. So, that's, I'm just showing you 3 very small functionality items in Adaptive. One was the self-service reporting. One was the, the dashboards where we could have a single version of the truth with centralized data for both financial and non-financial KPIs. And then the last one was talking about, increasing collaboration across a decentralized finance department by standardizing some of the processes. So let's go ahead and just do a quick recap here, and I will just change my display settings again here. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to show, or what I hope I've showed you is that Adaptive Insights helps, we had 3 best practices that best-in-class controllers are trying to follow in part 2 of this webinar. The first one was letting the data work for you. The second one was creating, a centralized data repository for one version of the truth, so everybody's looking at the same information. And then the third one is increasing collaboration. So, by providing a self-service environment, you're really freeing up controllers to spend time on more strategic activities. By centralizing the data, you're creating one version of the truth and you're creating more accurate reporting and analysis. And this really helps to build the confidence in the numbers, and it leads to better decision making and better visibility across the entire organization. And by increasing this collaboration, what you can actually do is, not only allow the finance team, but the entire organization to embrace active planning by ensuring that processes are collaborative, comprehensive, continuous, and, standardized if they need be. So let's leave a few minutes here for questions and answers. Okay, let me just go back here. Somebody had made a note that I showed a process for the month-end close. Can we create other processes? And the answer is yes. These are entirely defined. So whatever is applicable to your organization, you can create a process for that. And the functionality has actually been recently enhanced where you can start to create checklists and, create links to the underlying sheets which form the core of Adaptive, so that you can guide the individuals through the process and see where they need to go and where they need to be to finish what work they need to do. So definitely it's entirely user definable, and we just showed you an example there. All right, that was the only question we had for today, and we are at the end of our half hour. So I do appreciate your time on this, and thank you for attending this webinar, and it will be available and posted on our website very shortly. Thanks.